third part of the plagues in Egypt. So one can see how the scriptures are actually constructed according to this horoscope. And so we've arrived here with the firstborn of Egypt being struck down and the Passover law. And we move on, scripture moves on to the sign of, once again, of Gemini. And here where we found that this represented the rod of Aaron. And so this rises up, this is the IC in the chart of illumination, rise up to the mid-heaven point. So here in Gemini we should see the rising up of the people out of Egypt. And the scripture states, "And he called for Moses and Aaron by night, and said, Rise up, and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go serve the Lord, as ye have said. Also take your flocks and your herds, as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also." So here we have the rising up, which is reference to the IC in the chart of illumination, and taking the herds, etc., and the beasts with them. And obviously this is a reference to the centaur, the four-legged centaur, and this is the mid-heaven point here that occurs in Sagittarius during illumination of man. So the children of Israel have now travelled out of Egypt, symbolized by Mercury, Gemini, and Mercury governs Gemini, and this is the sign of communication but also travel. Now we come to Taurus, and Taurus is the sign of land, it's the bull. And the scripture now states, "And it shall be when the Lord shall bring thee into the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which he swore unto thy fathers to give thee, a land flowing with milk and honey." So a reference here, the next part of the scriptures, is a land flowing with milk and honey. So Taurus, symbolic of the earth sign of land here. So therefore we come next to Aries again, ruled by Mars, and Mars rules the soldiers' planet. So we have, while the Israelites are traveling out of Egypt and the promise given them of land, this sign here of Aries and Mars should be symbolic of Martian activity in scripture. And Mars rules warriors, rules war, and also rules soldiers. And we go on in scripture, "And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants was turned against the people, and they said, Why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us? And he made ready his chariot, and took his people with him, and he took 600 chosen chariots, and all the chariots of Egypt, and the captains over every one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt." So there we have here Pharaoh getting into his chariot, symbolized here by this sign, ruled, governed by Mars, after the people, going after the people to bring them back after the Exodus. Now, Pharaoh reaches the Israelites, and this is symbolized here by Pisces, the water sign. So therefore we have a watery element. And indeed, in the next part of the scripture it states, "And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea," symbolized here by Pisces. "And the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry land, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left." So here we have a direct reference to Pisces, the water sign. And we go on to Aquarius. And after the Egyptians were drowned in the sea, the people move on to the desert, and there are grumblings of the people, grumblings because they've left Egypt and it's not so affluent in the desert. Now, why grumblings? Because the sign of Aquarius here is governed by Saturn, and Saturn is a restrictive sign, and it's often the sign of grumblers. And but also Aquarius is a sign on the ascendant illumination. It's the spiritual sign that rises in the east at the moment when it's illumined, and the Lord, in response to the people's grumblings, provides the manna, the bread of life. And this is a reference in the scriptures to the ascendant at the moment of man's illumination being in Aquarius. And we move on to Capricorn, and in many respects Capricorn here, the goat, governed by Saturn, the sign of responsibilities and the law, and we have indeed with the coming and the giving of the law in through the Ten Commandments. So here we have it in Scripture, how the Scripture was actually constructed according to the zodiac. And this is the inner nature of the Torah and the actual Exodus, how it relates to each sign of the zodiac in a circle. So therefore we've dealt with the plagues in Egypt, and so therefore this ends the third part of the 10 plagues of Egypt.